Welcome to part 1 of this video series demonstrating the new features and functionality in Witness Horizon 25. In this video, we will be sharing with you the new AutoConnect feature and new selection highlighting functionality. Witness Horizon 25 includes a new feature called AutoConnect, designed to make model building easier straight out of the box. Previously, you would use the designer elements to create a layout initially unconnected and need to go back and perform the connections and create your input and output rules. Now we've got a very simple way of being able to build your model just in a single click at a time, including the connections and associated rules. To demonstrate, let's start with the machine at the start of the process. You'll see these 4 arrows around whatever object is selected. So if I click on the machine, it will center with the arrows around it. Before I continue demonstrating the AutoConnect feature, let me show you how you can turn this off. So if your model is already built and you just want to make some edits to it, you might find that the arrows make it feel cluttered. You can turn that off using this toolbar button here to toggle whether AutoConnect is used or not. But if I do turn it on, then for any pair of elements, if it's possible to connect those 2 elements together, you'll have the options to build the next step and its default rules at the same time. So if I start with the machine and click on the left arrow here, then I get a pop-up that starts with the list of designer element tabs. We're in the basic tab at the moment, but from the machine I could also go to things that are in the transport tab or the continuous tab and so on. Staying here on the basic tab, I can attach labor, another machine, a part, or a buffer. And so we'll run through anything that's in that designer element group and add it into this list if it's valid, or we could connect to ship or scrap and so on. If I click on the part, then that will take a default offset in the direction that I've selected, create a part as if I've dragged it on from the Designer Elements tab, and give it a default rule, in this case a pull rule into the machine from the part. I'll click the arrow to the right of the machine to add another machine, and by default a push rule is added. I'll add a buffer, and again this will push from the machine into that buffer, and from the buffer I'll add a final machine which I'll push to ship. If I want to arrange the elements vertically, depending on how your process is laid out, then I can select the down arrow there and push it to a queue at that point. And Witness recognized that we've already got a connection that exists. So we're prompted to say, do you want to take that new selection that you've just made and do you want to overwrite the rule that you previously had? Or do you want to create that buffer but leave the existing rule as it previously was? So I'll leave that untouched. And now I can click on the Run button, and as has always happened, as a part gets into a machine with an undefined cycle time, it'll give me a default prompt. So just by clicking on that AutoConnect functionality, we have our process up and running straight away.
There's also a set of other features that we've added in Witness Horizon 25, again to help the user as they're interacting with the model. First, we have the highlight display functionality. We've always had the functionality under the control of this toolbar button to highlight selections in our model. Or if we see lots of flashing and it's a distraction, we can use that same button to toggle that off. The updated functionality will now, as I hover over any of these display objects, put a highlight around that object. So where we've got things very close together, or if we've got a very full model and we're trying to find a particular element, then as I hover over that icon, it will highlight to say, if you click the mouse here, that's the object that you're going to select. And if I want that queue, I can very gradually move the mouse until the queue highlights. And when I click on it, I know that it's the queue that I'm going to get. So again, support for the user and not having to click something and miss, and then have to deselect and try to get it right the next time. And if you look down at the status bar, as I move across any of these items, then it's also telling me the type of item that I'm selecting. So that's the part queue, and that's the labor queue, and we can see that in the status bar there, what that object is. And the selection highlighting works in tandem with the lock mode. So if I have the individual lock selected, and I hover over an item, then as well as the icon itself being selected, because it's individual, it's going to select both of the queues and the other icon. And so when I click on it, those items get selected, but the highlighting tells me what it's going to be. The same is true for the element itself. And so now when I hover over it, I also see that the machine name is highlighted because that's going to end up in the selection if I click the mouse button at that point. So that selection highlighting is there to show you exactly what you're going to get when you make that selection.
We don't list everything on the status bar now because multiple display objects are selected, so we say what element it is. But we don't now try and say that this is the icon, the part Q, and so on. But it's support there to help you select. And we think that is going to be useful if you've got lots of elements close together to try and really recognize exactly which one it is that you're going to pick. It's probably easier here when you've got 3 elements on the screen than when you've got 300. But this should really give you some support in getting to the item that you're going to select. And in conjunction with that, we've made the selection between the element tree and those graphical items much more in sync. So when I select something on the display surface, that item is selected and it has the tick mark on the element tree. So we drive the tree based on the graphical selection. But what we haven't done previously is the reverse. So if I click on that buffer, that now will highlight the item on the display surface. And as I add more and more items in here, then it's adding those into the graphical display. So we don't have confusion about having one graphical item selected and something else selected on the tree, and then I click somewhere else. What am I actually selecting? It used to be hard to know what's going to be selected, so that selection mechanism is much more in sync now. For more information about Witness Horizon 25, please watch the other videos in this series. And for more information about Witness, visit www.lanner.com.